First, to the President of the Navajo Nation and to the President of the delegates, to the delegates, to the members of the Navajo Nation. Before I begin, everything that is important in a Muslim's life is always begun by seeking the help and the protection of the Creator. So it is my prayer this morning that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart will be acceptable to the Creator and acceptable to you. In the name of Almighty God, whom we call Allah, we thank Him for His mercy and His goodness to the members of the human family. That whenever any member of that family strays from the straight path that would give them success and favor with the Creator, He never leaves that people without sending them someone from among themselves that would guide them to that path of favor, that they can once again be the great member of the human family that they once were. So as a Muslim, we thank Almighty God for Moses and the Old Testament, the Torah. We thank Him for Jesus and the Gospel. We thank Him for Muhammad and the Quran. But we also thank Him for all the sages and the wise people that He's raised among the indigenous people that would guide you to the path of unity, progress, self-respect, and power to change the realities under which we live. So in the Arabic language, I greet all of you this morning with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum, but in English it means peace be unto you. Mr. President, honorable member of the House of Delegates, and to each of you, it is a great honor for me to be among you this morning. Before I start, I would like to introduce those that came with me. Number one is my wife. We've been married 53 years. My wife, Mother Khadija Farrakhan. She was my childhood sweetheart. I'd known her since she was 8 years old and I was 11. But we didn't start formally talking to each other until she was 14 and I was 17. And then it started getting serious. So we married in 1953, the same day on September the 12th that President John F. Kennedy married Jackie Onassis in Boston, Massachusetts. I was also married to my wife on that day in Boston, Massachusetts. We have 9 children, between 33 and 40 grandchildren. I can't remember the count. And about 14 great-grandchildren. And so naturally, in the native tradition, you all can teach the world many great lessons about the respect, honor, and protection of the female. So by my coming today and bringing my wife with me, that is sending the right kind of message, that it is the male and the female working together to bring about the rise of the nation. Next to my wife is the wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who is the founder of the Nation of Islam. This is Mother Tainetta Muhammad. Would you stand, Mother Tainetta? Mother Tainetta Muhammad is a world traveler. She just left Mongolia and Korea and got on a plane and was less than 48 hours in the United States before she came to Navajo land. And next to her is my daughter, Maria Muhammad. And our Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Ridgely, who has a doctorate degree in agricultural economics, and he came with me. And way over to my extreme right is Brother Shahid Muhammad, who's working on his doctorate degree in mathematics and teaches at our school called the University of Islam. Also, I have my chief of staff, who is Leonard Farrakhan Muhammad. I brought him because he's our supreme negotiator. And I understand that the Navajo people have some negotiating to do. Also, the minister of mine in Phoenix, Arizona, and the captain that trains the men in Phoenix, Arizona, Minister Patrick, raise your hand, and Captain Amin. And of course, we brought along our newspaper. We have a newspaper, the Final Call newspaper, that is seen throughout the United States and in our groups in England, in France, in Africa, in the Caribbean. And we wanted to do a feature story on the Navajo Nation, its struggles, and let the outside world know what is happening here, that they may see that this Navajo Nation is a nation that must be looked at, honored, respected as a powerful representative of the indigenous people. And in a world as crazy as this one is, the president has to move with his security. I'm sure that the Pope and the President of the United States has to move with security. And when you do good for your people, everybody doesn't always agree with you. So you have to have people that will look out for you while you're trying to do good for those whom you wish to serve. So I have our security personnel, Brother Antoine, Brother Rashad, and who else? And Brother Melvin, Brother Donald. Thank you all for coming. And who else? Now, the last person, I saved her for last, purposely. Would you come over, Yonajaha, please? This is Yonajaha Lone Wolf McCall Muhammad. Now, Yonajaha's mother is a full-blooded Oglala Sioux from, is it South Dakota? Pine Ridge, South Dakota. Her father, of course, you can look at her complexion and see that there was some mixture going on here. But she grew up with her mother teaching her the way of the indigenous Native American people. And all her life, she and her mother have wanted to see the coming together of the black and the red. Her mother worked toward this end for most of her life, and her mother passed away 2 years ago. But I'm sure at this moment her mother is with great joy seeing her daughter working to facilitate the coming together of the black and the red. And it was she who contacted the Navajo Nation to see if a meeting could take place between President Shirley and myself. President Shirley being the very open, warm-hearted person that is always trying to reach out to kith and kin, to others who will be helpful to him and to the Navajo Nation, agreed to meet with me. And he and the First Lady, Mrs. Shirley, came to Phoenix, Arizona, where I have a home. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And they brought the Chief of Staff and the Information Officer, George Hadeen, and security, and we met and had dinner for about 4 or 5 hours. And at that time, he invited me to come to put my foot down on sacred land in the Navajo Nation. Thank you. Yes.
She's a member of the Sioux Nation. One of our medicine people gave her a Navajo name. Yo Najjahai. Yo Najjahai. It's a Navajo name.
In other words, we do not recognize any division between Sioux, Navajo, Hopi, Cree, Chicopee, Iroquois, Seminole. You are really one nation. And as long as you see yourself as only a small part of that nation, you become a minority. And when you are a minority, you begin to think like a minority. But if you understand that as people of color, we outnumber others 11 to 1 on our planet, then you are an international people who must not think just in terms of yourself and the other Native Americans. You have indigenous people that look just like you in Mongolia. You have people that look just like you in parts of Asia, in Central America, South America, the Caribbean. You are a great people, and you need to think more of contacting all of the members of your family, because all the family members are suffering, but all the family members desire to come together in unity so that together we can address the problems and the challenges that we face. Now, before I say what is in my heart to say to you this morning, Mother Tainetta Muhammad's husband, who is my teacher and my spiritual father, from the very day that I met him, his aim was always to unite the black and the red and the Latino family, because he taught us that you are not Indians. Christopher Columbus, bless his heart, he was trying to find a new route to India and went west and found some people on an island that he called Hispaniola, and he called them Indians. He never asked them what did they call themselves. And so when he came to North America, you were already here. He never asked you, what did you call yourself? He called you out of his embarrassment. Well, I wanted to find India, and so I found Indians. And that name stuck. But you are more than what he's called you. You are the original people of this planet. You are akin to all of the native peoples of the earth. and you are direct descendants from the Great Spirit that you call DJ. So you have a nature of goodness, but like, oh, you said, very honored, sir. You have a nature of goodness, but all of us who have sojourned under slavery and oppression have been corrupted to a degree that we all need to be purified of the dross of inferior thinking that makes Native Americans sometimes think that you are inferior to your former master or the one that took the land from you and brought us to America. Now, you know that we are the descendant of slaves. We didn't come like the pilgrims on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. We came in the holds of ships. And when we were brought here, we did not speak English. We spoke African languages. We had an African culture, African tribal traditions, but all of that was taken away from us by taking the children away from the parent, so the parent could not teach the child the mother language. The father could not give us a name that was an African name. And so since we became the property of our former slave masters, like you brand your horses, you brand your cattle, or you brand your pigs, you name your chattel that you own. So we took on the names of our former colonial masters. And it is the same with the Native Americans. They did not want you to wear the name of your ancestors, which connects you to your culture, your history, your tradition. So they said we have to take on anglicized names because we have to get along in the anglicized world, so we accepted their names. We've done that in Africa with many of our African brothers and sisters. So here we are with common problems and really a common destiny. Now, this is what I wanted to talk to you about from my heart to your heart. I don't come before you with notes scripted. So I'm going to look you in your eye and I want you to look me in mine. Because you know deceit when you hear it, you should, after all these years of false treaties and broken promises. And you can sense when people are true or when they are false. You put your great Native American sensitivity on my mouth, on my heart, on my mind, and when we finish, I hope that you will see that I'm not a stranger. I am your brother, I am your kith, I am your kin, and I've come to establish that relationship with the greatest of the indigenous people in America, the Navajo Nation. But from this, we must unite the whole indigenous people to address the challenges that we face as a people. Now, everyone, thank you. Everyone that came with me, some of us own our homes. But when we leave you, we go back to the house that we own on a street that we don't own, in a county that we have no ownership, in a city that we have no ownership. We are, as black people in America, almost totally land less. When I set my foot down on the sacred ground of Navajo land, everywhere I looked, I saw land. Land owned by you. I did not come to a poor people, because when you own land, it's better than having $1, because this dollar is fading in terms of its real value, but the land will never lose its value if we take care of Mother Earth. Then Mother Earth will take care of us. Now, family, I told the president that you are rich beyond anything you could imagine when you have access to land. Now, what do you have that you can use to better the condition of the Navajo Nation and better the condition of indigenous people? I would like to quote something from the Bible with your permission, because I study the Bible, I study the Quran, and I'm gradually being introduced to the traditions of the Native American people, and there's great similarity in much of these things, but it takes someone who wants to break down the artificial barriers that separate Muslims, Christians, and Jews to see the similarity and the common root out of which these so-called monotheistic religions spring. Well, there's an interesting story in the Bible. It begins in the book of Genesis. Genesis means the beginning of, the birth of. And in the beginning, when you and I were born, we were born onto land that the Creator gave to you and me, earth. But the scripture said he made man in his own image and after his own likeness. So who are you? If you are made in the image and the likeness of the Creator, you are born to master, not serve, but master the land on which you have come to birth. So the scripture says he gave man duties in these words. He said, multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it. Now, we've operated on the base principle of multiplication. That's why we're here, because we know how to procreate. That's multiplication on a base level, but it's nice. Excuse me. But on a higher level, when we go to school and we learn the multiplication table, there's a multiplier, a multiplicand, and you produce a product. And what does this teach us? That every human being is born with the innate ability that must be cultivated through education to make us all producers of the things that we need. Now, growing up on the land, you see nature. You do not see the ant, a red ant, looking to the black ant to give it food. Talk to me. The red ant is busy. The black ant is busy. You don't find a robin or a crow or a buzzard picketing some other bird because we didn't get enough worms. Nature has made every creature to go after what the Creator has put in nature to provide what we need to exist on this planet. Having said that, if we are not producers, then we are consumers. And if we are consumers of what others produce for us, it is natural for the producer to look down on the consumer as less than himself. So when you go into somebody else's business to spend your Navajo dollar, he might tell you, well, the Walmart that we made over on that side is for you people. I think I heard that somewhere. But the Walmart over here is not for you people. Somebody looking down on you because you're going to them to suffice your needs, when here you have 27,000 square miles of Navajo land that you exercise some degree of control over. Now let's talk about production, multiplication on the highest level. When you were born on Navajo land, you came to the earth with everything that you needed to master your environment. How do I know that? Because each of us started as sperm, I think. Well, I did. And that sperm had intelligence. It knew what it was supposed to do. And once the sperm was put in the right environment, the sperm went to work to meet the egg. Now notice how the Creator does this thing. He first places the sperm in a hostile environment. You didn't hear me. And in that hostile environment, the sperm has to swim toward that egg with speed, lest the environment crush it. So before you even came to birth, you had to conquer a hostile environment. Then when ejaculation, and this is a biology course, it's not vulgarity. But when ejaculation, I'm sure we're all familiar with that term, took place, they say there are from 100 million to 1 billion sperm released at that time. But only one can fertilize the egg. So that means the odds that it would be you was 100 million to 1 billion to 1, and you overcame the odds. You did. Before you got here, you overcame the odds. And third, you had to swim upstream, like the salmon, against gravity. And you survived it, I survived it. So the Creator tested us before we got here. Don't tell me that the environment is hostile, because your fathers, your ancestors conquered hostile environments. They were fierce, as the president said. They were proud. Why were they fierce and why were they proud? Because nothing that nature presented them as a challenge did they shrink from. They overcame every challenge to make nature subordinate itself to them. And so the original, your ancestors, took the skin from animals to make clothing, took the skin from animals and whatnot to make a home, because it was their duty to provide what? Food, clothing, shelter, protection. Did they do it? Yes, they did. Now, what's wrong with us today? There's something going wrong here. The president said yesterday, we once were a great people. We were proud. We were fierce. We were strong. But something happened. What happened? Today, we are dependent on federal dollars. If the U.S. government cuts back on what they promised to give, or they fail to give what they promised to give, then we feel, all right, you didn't live up to your promise, but now we are suffering because of government neglect. You could say that and you would be truthful, but the real truth is we're suffering from self-neglect. Because if the government has a responsibility to feed dollars in to the Navajo nation, then where does the money go? All the businesses that I saw, and I saw many, they looked prosperous, they looked thriving. So I asked, how many of them are owned by the Navajo people? And I think the answer was about 5% of the businesses are owned by Navajo, 95% are owned by others. Well, what does that mean? That means that every dollar that comes to Navajo land, when you trade with those who are not Navajo, they take your money out of Navajo land, and your money does not circulate among yourselves so that you can build institutions on Navajo land to benefit the Navajo people. Now, that's not a pretty picture. We are suffering the same thing in Black America. We have doctorate degrees, master degrees, BS degrees, but we are not producing factories to provide the needs of our people. We are looking for others to come in and provide that for us. So in the black community, you will have Chinese, you will have Arabs, you will have others coming in to provide goods and services for us. And then we get upset because they don't respect us. Nobody will respect a people if that people are non-productive. So how do we cure racism? Now, I didn't come here to address racial violence. I didn't know anything about it until I read the paper the other morning that an elderly brother was beaten by three young people from the border towns, and that a Native American was killed, and there was a family dispute and the police were brought in, and etc. And it creates anger among the Navajo people, as it should. But why does the border town look down on us? Why do white people look down on Black America? Is there something that we can do to change the ugly picture that is in their minds concerning us? And I say the answer is yes. You cannot defeat racism by picketing. We didn't defeat it. We marched. We got good laws. But right now, we're back in court again, in Congress again, trying to renew the Voting Rights Act. So marching is okay. I'm not saying that it isn't. But marching will never win the respect of those who are already looking down on us because we're non-productive as a people. So, how do you win respect? You win respect by doing that which the Creator put us here to do. And what did He put us here to do? First, you come to the earth knowing nothing. So the duty of every human being is the acquisition of knowledge. That is what separates man from beast. And then with the acquisition of knowledge, then you look at the environment, and what did the Creator give us? then you use what the Creator gave you, multiply it with what knowledge has given you, and produce a product that serves the needs of our people. And this is where the black and the red have fallen down. Now, if I can say this in conclusion, I said you are a very rich people, and you really are. You are not poor. You are rich because you have land under your feet that is crying for development so that we can produce the necessities for our people. Now, is it normal that every... Yes, sir.
Brother Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
But today, we are still not respected. We
Yeah.
are still put down.
Yes, sir.
They will not allow us to cross that imaginary line. They will not allow us to march forward, to tell them that we are free people. Brother Farrakhan, you must understand the indigenous people's way of life. And I do thank you for expressing that.
Thank you.
But we continue to still live in the apathy of the minority people here. And the majority of the people here who still control all of this around us will not allow us to stand up.
Thank you. My brother, let me say this. With due respect to everything that you have said, that I can agree with you. They will not allow. But it's not what they will not allow. It's what we permit. Once we say that we will not permit what they will not allow, then you'll find, like in football or baseball, you have the ball in your hand. You get together and make a play. And they're going to oppose you, but your goal is to make a touchdown. Our goal is to free the Navajo nation and black people and oppressed people all over the world from the thinking that we are less, we are inferior, and we cannot accomplish what we will. So yes, brother, they will not allow. But we must determine right here on Navajo land, yes, they will not allow, but we will not permit their disallowance of us feeding, clothing, sheltering ourselves. Now, how does this work? How does this work? I asked yesterday, how much arable land is there among the 27,000 square miles of Navajo land? And brother told me that there was at least 100,000 acres of arable land. I believe if you looked at your land, you would find that there's much more than 100,000 acres. Now, my brothers and sisters, who brings food to the Navajo Nation? I saw Basha's. It's a nice supermarket-like. I saw other food stores. Where's yours? Where's yours? See, if the Navajo Nation is 300,000, we could grow enough food on our acreage to start giving the Navajo people their own basic food supplies. Now, what will that do for the Navajo people? If somebody else is producing your food and you don't know how it's being produced, you don't know how it's being raised, you don't know the livestock and what they're doing to it, then you find all your people suffering from all these kinds of diseases, all these kinds of complaints health-wise. But it starts with the water that you drink and the food that you eat and how you raise the food that you feed your people. Well, if somebody else is doing that for us, then they are controlling not only what we eat, they're controlling our health. And that we cannot give to another people who have not shown that they love us, or they respect us, or they want good for us. We have to show that kind of love for ourselves. Now, if we grew the food ourselves, you would find competition with your supermarket and Basha's. And if the native people said, well, I'm going to spend my dollar with my own Navajo supermarket, then the money starts staying within the Navajo nation. There's 50% unemployment, I heard, among the Navajo youth, or the Navajo people. Is that a true figure, sir? About 50%. Well, when you have young men that don't have a job and they're aggressive, do you know what that degenerates into? It feeds into crime. It feeds into gang activity. It feeds into disrespect of the elders, because the children are saying that the elders are not producing a way for them. And it forces the president to go to Washington and say to Washington, can you give us more than scraps? We need something for our people. Well, I know that there's help for the Navajo nation. You are a nation. The president said to me that if you borrowed money from the U.S. government, he feels you could pay back at least $30 million a year. Is that? Well, if the U.S. government doesn't want to loan you the money to give yourself a push, there are nations outside of your kith and your kin that will not only loan you the money, they might just give you the money to see the Navajo nation rise and not be dependent on casinos, but be dependent on what you produce. You have great intelligence among you. You are not ignorant people. I met this beautiful brother. Would you stand, Mr. Jim? Now, they say Mr. Jim doesn't speak a lot during the meeting of the delegates, but he spoke yesterday, and I heard a man of great vision, great wisdom, high intelligence, that graduated from the best that white America and Britain has to offer. You have it among you. Tap your resources and then go and establish friendships all around the world. And then I would say, if the Attorney General assistant is here, is she here?
No, she's not.
She didn't stay. Oh. Well, anyway, America should be ashamed. America should be ashamed after taking the land from the indigenous people, that they would allow the indigenous people to have oil on this land, gas coming through it, electricity flowing over it, and indigenous people on the land living in darkness without heat or without water. This is criminal. And therefore, it takes strong leadership. You must not be fearful, because your ancestors were not afraid of the hostility of the environment politically. We can conquer the hostility of the political environment as we conquered the vaginal tract that led us to life itself. To my brother president, and to all of the members of the delegates, you have a wonderful opportunity in a fledgling democracy to show America how democracy really works. All of you represent your constituency and you make laws that govern the Navajo Nation, that is a great, great honor and a humbling experience. But I would hope and pray that you will back those ideas that will lift the Navajo Nation and unite the Navajo Nation with the indigenous people. And we, as your black American brothers and sisters, we hope that this will be a beginning where we work together to lift both people to where the Creator wanted us to be by making us a productive people. Your young people will look at you and salute you because you laid a foundation that they can build on. Criminal activity, gang activity can stop when productive activity begins in earnest on Navajo land. May the Creator bless your president, bless this House and its delegates, bless the people of Navajo land, and may He bless us to overcome all the challenges. Did you see what I have in my lapel? I have the Great Seal of the Navajo Nation. And the first question I asked your president was to please explain to me what this seal means. And he explained it to me and then gave me this, which I will wear. I have been offered many things to wear in my lapel, but the Great Seal of the Navajo Nation is so filled with wisdom. The sun above, the four mountains, the four directions, the animals. He said the weapons that the Great Spirit gave to the ancestors to slay the monsters. And then at a certain point, He took those weapons back. Well, we need to ask the Great Spirit, please, give us those weapons again so we may slay the monster of non-productivity, the monster of greed, the monster of envy and self-hatred, the monster that makes us feel inferior to other people. You are a great nation. Rise up and show the world that the Navajo Nation is on the march. May God bless you as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. On behalf of the council, also, I think Ben Shelley has a presentation. Ben, if you would come up here. Out here, not in the bathroom. Just kidding. Members of the council and Honorable Minister, I know that throughout the world you've made your travels and you've been given many gifts, but from the heart of this nation's council, definitely there's great strides that have to happen yet for our people, and you're an inspiration. Your words of wisdom are great, and this comes from the heart of my colleagues here. We ask for you to wear this bolo tie. You would put it on there. Or the president could help you.
Please.
And Ben.
A little bit more.
To show our appreciation,
I like
the
that.
kind words that you've given our people. And we'll take these words of wisdom back home. And as many people are here, they've heard also what you have said to us. And also here's a buckle, a belt buckle that will go on your belts there.
Thank you.
Yes. And I'm sure someone has an extra hat they'll give you cowboy.
Thank you.
So thank you once again, sir.
I wanted to present a gift. Oh, my brother
Mr. Shelley has it.
My brother promised to get me a book to read that I must send back titled God is Red. And I told him I would be anxious to read that book because I believe it. Thank you. Brother Wayne.
Okay, I did promise in the book, on behalf of the Navajo people, I would like him to read this book.
Thank you. I'm
and
gonna keep this
bring
on.
it back too. This is a partnership. I'm giving it to him in person, and I want to see it back, and he's going to come back. I wanted to give him a bolo tie, but I guess it's already been done. This bolo tie has been given to me by the people, by the grassroots people out there, and appreciation for some of the things I have done, spoke for them. And I think this actually comes from the indigenous people, and I would give it to you on behalf of the Budget and Finance Committee, and also on behalf of the Navajo Nation Council here, and also on behalf of the people, the Navajo people. And this, I want you to wear this. This is actually given to me by the people. It's not something that was made. It was worn by another person. It was given to me like I'm giving it to you from person to person.
Thank
And I
you.
would like to see you wear it, and I'd like to see you proudly wear it, and maybe do away with that tie everywhere you go. I want you to wear it and proud, and remember us.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I told them last night when the president gave me a blanket, and he gave gifts to my wife and to others of pens. And I want you to know that I've been all over the world, and I've received many wonderful, wonderful gifts. But the gift that I received last night from the president of the Navajo Nation, of that beautiful, beautiful blanket with the talking code, code talkers, a code talker blanket, I cherish that more than the gifts that I have received from all over the world, because it symbolizes to me the coming together of the black and the red, and I know that means the rise of both people when we face the challenges and overcome them. And now I would like to present a gift to my brother president. Oh, there's another presentation. I'm sorry.
Honorable Minister, there is one more presentation here that one of our colleagues, young lady here, serves on the council, and she's the chairperson of our Public Safety Committee. Probably the first time it's ever happened that we had a young lady to serve in that capacity and done a great job for our nation. Ms. Longtree.
Thank you. Welcome, Minister Farrakhan. We really are so happy to welcome you here to Navajo land, and I'm so happy that you were able to meet with our leaders, but also give a little bit of tour, and your words of encouragement are exactly what we need to continue to get the enthusiasm and energy that we know that we have within us to take us beyond of the situation that we're in right now. And at this time, I would like to make a presentation to Mrs. Farrakhan.
Khadija?
I'd like to make this presentation of a turquoise bracelet to the missus for your support and your loving heart to allow the minister to do the work that he does and to continue that.
That's right.
Here on Navajo land, as may have been explained to you, we have a matriarchal society, and so it's the women that take the lead here on Navajo, and that's why we are very thankful for Mrs. Farrakhan for her leadership within your family to allow you to do the work that you do.
Thank you.
So we want to thank her
Thank
and
you.
your family for being with us too. So yeah.
Thank you. May I say that my wife is really more than just a wife. But when she met me, I was not a full-grown man, meaning a producer. I knew how to procreate, but but she entered a class that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad set up to help our women, to help our men, to become the type of men that they could admire and honor and respect. And so I stand before you not only as a product of a great leader and a great teacher, but I'm also a product of a great woman who has stood by my side and helped me to become the man that I am today. So I thank you for honoring me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Now,
motivational speech this morning. Thank you very much for all the words on the presentation.
I think he has one to make.
I wanted to make a presentation to the president and his wife. This may look like two little coffins, but it's not. This is, oh, let me put this down. This is a pen handmade by my brother Wayne Muhammad. And if you look at it, and it's when you sign new treaties, new powerful documents for the nation. This. And this is the case that it comes in. And this is the female counterpart, because in the seal we have the white corn and we have the yellow corn representing the male and the female. So we offer to his lovely wife this pen that she can also join her husband, hopefully, in signing powerful documents that say the future of the Navajo Nation is safe. Thank you. And also, we sent a team down to New Orleans and the Gulf area to do a documentary on the horror of Katrina. And I wanted to present this to the president. It's called The Unmasking of New Orleans. And what we saw was that we cannot depend on government to look out for us. We have to look out for ourselves. And this morning, if you saw CNN, many of the American citizens who are caught in that war zone in Lebanon are crying because European nations sent ships there faster to take their citizens out than our government sent to take American citizens out of that danger zone. And what it says is, we have to survive disaster and we have to plan. We hope that the government will do their job, but even if they don't, we have the responsibility to do it for ourselves. May God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you again on behalf of the Navajo Nation Council.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if I could ask you, Minister, why are you here at the Navajo Nation?
It has long been the aim of the founder of the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to unite the struggle of black people in America with the struggle of the indigenous people, that whatever we have learned and whatever they have learned in our struggle, that we pool our resources and then we can face the challenges that both people face with a greater chance to overcome these challenges to make of each people a great nation. Well, naturally, in all of the Native American places where they live and serve, if we are non-productive, others who produce our needs have a tendency in a society that is rooted in a white supremacist attitude to look down on people of color and to treat them less than they would treat themselves or their own kind. So we don't find anything new or different in the violence that has been accorded to some members of the Navajo Nation. That happens to many indigenous people as they interrelate to the dominant society, and it happens to us. So we feel that rather than looking at the dominant society, we need to look deeper at ourselves. What are we not doing that encourages disrespect? And there's a verse in the Holy Quran, which is the book of scripture of the Muslims, that says, God will never change the condition of a people until they change within themselves. So my talk today is that we bear the burden to change within ourselves, the red and the black and the brown, and then by changing within ourselves and becoming a productive people, we will force change in the dominant society.
You're very well known for organizing peaceful marches around the country. Are you considering helping the Navajo Nation organize a march?
If there's anything that we can say that would be helpful to organize a march that is peaceful but effective, marching alone will only get the attention of the dominant society that there's something that we need to redress as a grievance. But the work has to be done inside the Navajo Nation. That if the Navajo Nation takes advantage of the federal dollars that they get, takes advantage of the land that they have and the resources available in that land, if they reach out for help to indigenous people all around the world who will be helpful to the Navajo Nation, then we can become so productive as a people that border town racial violence will cease to exist, because instead of going to the border towns to get what we need for ourselves, the Navajo Nation will produce our needs. So what need we to go to the border town? Then the border town can come to us.
So how have you enjoyed your stay so far?
Oh, what a wonderful stay. I have been in many hotels, slept in the presidential suite at the Waldorf Astoria. As God is my witness, I felt more comfortable at the Days Inn, knowing that that inn was owned by my kith and my kin. My wife and I slept so well, so peaceful, and to walk out on the land, and everywhere I look, I see what you have. And I don't want any Navajo to wake up thinking that you are less than anybody else. You are equal to, if not greater than, if you take advantage of the land that is under your feet and the brilliant minds that the Navajo Nation has already produced for the advancement not only of the Navajo, but all indigenous people.
Anything else you want to add or say?
I just want to thank His Excellency the President for the privilege of inviting me to set my foot and our feet on the sacred Navajo land. And I hope and pray for his success, for the success of the Navajo people, for the success of any march that they will hold, not to interfere with the outside community, but to say to the outside community, we are human beings as well, and we deserve mutual respect as human beings. And so I pray that the Navajo Nation will be that light for the whole indigenous people, not only in North America, but in the Caribbean and Central and South America as well. May God bless the Navajo Nation. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, Minister Farrakhan, thank you for coming out to the Navajo Nation. One question I have is, have you visited any other tribes at all? Why did you choose Navajo or come out to Navajo? What made it unique or you wanted to?
I have visited the Sioux Nation in South Dakota. This is 20 years ago. I have been in the Inipi Sweat Lodge and experienced that experience. I have been to the Sundance, and when the federal government threatened to take land at Big Mountain away from the Navajo and the Hopi, I came with members of the Nation of Islam to stand beside the Navajo and the Hopi to protect that land from the federal government taking it from the Navajo and the Hopi. I sat with the Hopi elders. I sat with the Navajo elders. I have entertained chiefs in our home in Phoenix, but this experience, I must say, is the greatest of all the experiences because the Navajo Nation is the largest, most potentially powerful of all of the indigenous people. So I find it fortuitous and I find it wonderful that the Almighty Creator has afforded us an opportunity on the invitation of our President to visit Navajo land.
One thing that you talked about is kind of this inferiority complex that Native people have, minority people have, and a lot of people have become dependent on the Navajo Nation. They have this mindset of shuh, like give me, they don't want to work. How do we begin to change that mindset on the level where we can turn that around? Because the words you offered were very powerful, and I think the council delegates and leaders understand that, but how do we begin to change that mindset in the everyday people who are out there and who don't have running water, who don't get the services that they need? How do we change that so they can make changes for themselves?
That mindset that is a part of the Navajo Nation, that is a part of the indigenous people, that is also a part of black people, that we want government to do for us what we could unite and do for ourselves. That attitude is not going to change unless we have a powerful teaching and a powerful idea at the root of that teaching that uproots the mindset of dependency on others. And this is why I said to our Honorable President that being president of the Navajo Nation is not like the president of the United States. The president of the United States is a politician, so he thinks politically, okay? But he has scholars and educators and scientists at his beck and call. When you become the leader of the Navajo Nation, the leader must not be just a politician, he must be a teacher as well. For it is teaching that the Navajo people need, that the indigenous people need, that black people need, that Latino people need to come out of this mindset of inferior thinking. And so we have to examine all the things that shape our minds. We have to examine first, what are the teachings at home? How do the parents instill in their children not a mind of dependency, but a mind of mastery? That starts with parents who understand who they are and their relationship to the Great Spirit. Second, what is being offered in the schools? If we are being taught American history that idolizes the accomplishments of the Caucasian people, which is great, but if we don't show Native American children the greatness of the Native American people and what they have given to the onward march of civilization, then our children are going to be less and less inclined to be at that educational table. Then we have to look at religion, because religion has also been used as a tool of white supremacy. That can be corrected. But if you notice in religion, when the Christian teachers come to the land, they want you to study their Bible. They want to give you Christian names. They want you to understand the value of Jesus Christ. But they show him to you as the image of the very people who stole the land from you, when Jesus never really looked like that. So if you could see Jesus in your image and God in your image, rather than in the image of your tormentor, then you wouldn't subliminally think of them as greater than yourself. You would see yourself equal to. And if you are greater, it's greater because you are morally superior in your righteous conduct, you are ethically superior, or you are intellectually superior. Never superior because of the color of your skin. And that's why Martin Luther King said he hoped for the day when a man would never be judged by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. We have to change what is being fed to Native Americans, to black children, to brown children, even what is being fed to white children that fosters this attitude that I am better than you because I am white. Not because I'm morally better, intellectually superior, or ethically better. I'm better because I'm white. That makes white people sick, and that sickness must be cleansed from them and cleansed from us.
I also wanted to ask you about, when you're talking about the color of skin and bringing this understanding. During the Grammys a couple of years ago, Outkast, which is a group that is primarily black, came on stage, and perhaps maybe because they were ignorant, I'm not sure, but there was an attempt to ask them why, by a different groups of Native people, especially the Navajo, because they opened up their song with a prayer that was Navajo, and it was spoken in Navajo.
Really?
And yeah, and so during the Unity Conference, which is the four journalist colors, they come together every 4 years. And there was an attempt to try to explain to the black journalists by the Native American journalists about why that was
Offensive?
Very offensive. And even there was an attempt to speak with Outkast, who would never return any of our calls. And so how does one bridge that then when you're asking for unity between the blacks and the indigenous
Certainly.
people?
I think a dialogue is most important, and I think that they should have dialogued with our Native American family, because I really don't believe that in their hearts they intended to insult. When we were coming to Navajo land, one of the things that we were told, please do not refer to Navajo land as a reservation, because it is insulting to the Navajo people. Thank God for somebody telling us that, so that we wouldn't make a mistake out of our ignorance. Outkast, I believe, culturally, was trying to pay honor to the Navajo people, but in ignorance, they offended. So I am sure that if they dialogued with the Navajo, that could show them the grievous thing that they felt, they would go back and apologize and change what they did. Because for them to learn a Navajo prayer, that does not come easy. For them to learn to speak it in the Navajo language, which the code talkers use to save America from many disasters, that was not easy. So underneath that, they were showing in their ignorance a love for the Navajo people, to learn a Navajo prayer, to speak it in the Navajo language, but they did it in a way, unfortunately, that offended. And I will represent this to Outkast, that they should dialogue with you, so that you can show them what they did. And after showing them, I am sure that they will never do it again, because our desire is not to carry on the same disrespect and offense that we have found being done to us. We don't want to do it to anybody else.
Gentleman in the red shirt, maybe just two more questions. It's almost past 15 minutes now.
All right, I got two questions for each of you guys.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. You compared a lot of your Black America's plights to the plights of Native Americans. Some of the Native Americans I've spoken to over the years have said there's differences in that Black America has always tried to obtain equality, whereas Native America has tried to maintain its sovereignty. So what more specifically could you relate your message to as far as maintaining Navajo Nation sovereignty or Native American sovereignty as a whole?
Thank you for your question. You know, a slave always wants to be equal with his slave master. That to the slave is the pinnacle of success. And so when you suffer from a slave mentality, you never think of sovereignty or independence from your former slave master. You think of getting an equal education so you can be equal to your former slave master. That is the mental illness of the Black American leadership and the Black American community. We should be striving for what the Native American is striving for: sovereignty, complete independence. So what I mentioned yesterday in our meeting with the delegates, you have the land under your feet. You have a degree of sovereignty which is respected. You have your flag, you have your culture, you have your language, you have your history, you have your legislature making laws to elevate the Navajo people. But there are problems that if the Navajo wanted to bring others in to invest in development on this land, we have to go through somebody else to get permission. So if I have to get permission from the government of the United States to do something on my land, then am I as sovereign as I would like to be? And the answer, of course, is no. But the stronger the Navajo Nation becomes in its unity, in its progressive strides toward productivity, and in its unity with the other members of the indigenous people, you will force the government to yield. And the government will admit that you have greater rights, rights to your water, rights to the land to bring foreign investment in, rights that are yours as a sovereign nation. I would like to see every business that is on Navajo land paying taxes to the Navajo Nation in order to do business on this land. I would like to see in the future, if you want to do business on Navajo land, we'll give you 51%. We own 49% of your business, so that whatever monies come can be used to build schools, to build hospitals, to build infrastructure. But everybody can't come on Navajo land, suck the blood of the Navajo people, take the money out of Navajo land to build up their communities, and leave Navajo land in a state of dependency. So the Navajo are right, the indigenous people are right. We want more sovereignty, more independence, more self-determination, more self-respect, and then the world will respect us for being self-respecting and self-productive. Last question.
So will when the Navajo Nation in dealing with its voting, which is where you're talking about state representation and making some type of movement, and we've seen that with the blacks and their support for the VRA, will the black community, will you be there to also speak up and say, you know, we stand here next to, you know, the Navajo Nation, next to the National Congress of Indians, this is what they would like to see done in the next campaign?
It would be a great honor for me to stand with you in your struggle and to lift my voice along with your voices and our people along with your people to change the conditions of the reality of Navajo life, particularly among the most poor and left out. Yes, it would be an honor for us to stand with you and you with us. And the more we learn to stand with one another, instead of I being a solo over here and President being a solo act over here, let's form a chorus and let's sing together on the needs of our people and then work together to solve the pressing problems of both people, especially when they react with each other. May God bless us. Thank you for your questions.